I've got something slightly different today. As you know, I play a lot of Hell Let Loose, but today I decided maybe I need to branch out, maybe I need to try something new. Maybe, just maybe, there is a better game than Hell Let Loose out there. I'm sceptical, but we'll see. The first game that I decided to try is a game called Insurgency Sandstorm, which a lot of you have probably heard of. I've never played it before, and it was going for cheap, so I thought, hey, why not? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to review this game and see just how good it really is. It's got very high ratings. On CD keys it's like 97%. So I'm excited. But without further ado, let's dive in. So here we have it. Insurgency Sandstorm. A game that promised exciting, immersive gameplay, yet left me feeling a little underwhelmed. Developed by New World Interactive, Insurgency Sandstorm is a tactical, team-based shooter set in a modern conflict zone. While the game boasts a reasonably high level of realism and intensity, it also features a steep learning curve that may deter the casual players. In this review, I will share my honest thoughts on the game's mechanics, graphics, and overall gameplay experience, including the aspects that left me disappointed. So, if you're on the fence about whether to pick up Insurgency Sandstorm, stick around to hear my perspective. But before we truly get into it, if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like, and comment down below what your thoughts are of Insurgency Sandstorm. Let's get it. Initially, when I first picked this game up, I was hella excited. All of the reviews were outstanding, complimenting the game's sense of realism and attention to detail, while also stating that while it's not the prettiest multiplayer FPS game to be released in 2018, it is billed as one of the best. When I first loaded up, I decided to try the tutorials which you're seeing on screen now, and straight away I saw the attention to detail so heavily mentioned in all of the reviews I read. The way the aiming mechanism moves the weapon ever so slightly before the player's body moves, to the detail in the audio when reloading or switching fire rates. It's clear that the developers did their research into how weapons truly work. Not more so than when you reload a full clip after already chambering around and your ammo count increases. So, calling in an enemy squad in the firing range, I was immediately shot and killed, showing the near instantaneous time to kill. Or did it? I moved on, picked up an MG3, mounted on my bipod, and let rip. Bodies fell all over the place, and my excitement only grew. I'd sort of got to grips with the recoil mechanics, and assuming I had the time to kill measurement down to a T, I decided to jump into an online match with other players on my team against an onslaught of enemy AI. And this is where the game was very quickly knocked off that perch I had subconsciously placed it upon. I had unknowingly launched into a game mode designed around shooters from the 90s, aptly titled Running in the 90s. This meant no ADS. All I had to aim my shots was a laser pointer that seemed to be ineffective at best, and the enemies seemed to have turned into a sponge in the 5 minutes it took to transition from tutorials to actual gameplay. I turned a corner, a lone enemy was sat waiting for me, I fired, and I kept firing, and I kept on firing. After half a clip, the enemy finally died. And this wasn't a singular experience. Time and time again I found myself face to face with an enemy, and time again they sponged my bullets. I'd had enough. I decided to try a new game mode, and with that, my enjoyment ever so slightly increased. Rather than having to defend a point with no real threat, this time I had to withstand 7 waves of an enemy onslaught with my teammates. I found myself a place to set up in this damaged building, and found that the previous game, it must have been bugged, because this time, with my AR, 2 shots was enough to put an enemy down. That's more like it. However, in real terms of enjoyability, not much changed. The game felt clunky, like it was missing something. Perhaps that was the intensity of playing against other players. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I persisted with it, hoping something would bring this game back up to hold the esteem it apparently deserves. The graphics though on this game mode somehow seemed better. The map felt a little bigger, although chaotic at best. And after every wave of enemies, I had to restock my ammo. Well, that's fair enough and realistic in a sense. I also gained additional supply points to add different items onto my weapons, such as a sight, barrel attachments, extended magazines, etc. This added a new sense of progression that the previous game mode lacked. In hindsight, it probably lacked that because I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. Nevertheless, as time went on, my weapon got easier to use and the kills began to rack up. Is this the experience I was hoping for when I downloaded the game? Had I finally witnessed the game the way that all the reviewers had? Had I made my judgment far too soon? Well, the answer to that, quite frankly, is no. After that game ended, it was time for a new map. And once again, I find myself feeling constrained by another small map in a game mode that boasted an ever-growing enemy count. Teammates started getting in each other's way while trying to defend their objective, and this led to chaos, confusion and frustration. By this time, I'd been playing for nearly 2 hours, and let me tell you, it felt like a hell of a lot longer. Maybe I've been blinded by the sheer brilliance of other games I've played such as Hell Let Loose and Squad, or maybe the run and gun games just don't cut it for me anymore. But either way, I really wasn't enjoying myself. I can't fault the game's desire to drag you into the utter chaos of a war zone. It does that bit brilliantly. While trying to fight off wave after wave of enemies, you inevitably let some slip through the cracks, and then they're right on top of you, and you go from impersonating shifty powers to Rambo in a split second. No longer are you picking enemies off at range, but instead you engage automatic fire and you start dropping bodies as they come flying through the doorways of the room you're in. And sure enough, if your team doesn't work together, you are eventually outmanned, outgunned and defeated. Now, I touched on it a little bit earlier on, but let's talk about the graphics of the game. For me, one thing that was absolutely brilliant was the shooting animation. If shooting with iron sights, you see the sparks fly out from the muzzle, followed by a small puff of smoke. Exactly what you would expect to see from a modern firearm. The recoil was relatively realistic, although was mostly horizontal. By that, I mean I didn't use many weapons where the barrel of the gun shot up skyward after expelling a round as the bolt recycles another one into the chamber. Instead, and true to a well-handled rifle, the recoil was more into the shoulder. Anyone who has fired a weapon before will know that with the correct grip, you can manage vertical recoil fairly easily, and the game shows this with great efficiency. Adding on foregrips or a bipod that aid in the grip makes this easier. Horizontal recoil is a little harder to control, but can be managed by way of the compensator. Again, this is demonstrated well in the game. It does feel like though, all of the graphics budget went on the weapons. When you get to a point in the game where you have to destroy an enemy's weapons cache, you would expect the explosion you witness in games to come with some form of destruction of the surroundings. This game lacks this, which is an awful shame. I can understand why though. There aren't really many weapons in this game strong enough to make a building collapse like you would see in games like Bad Company. That's not the only downside though. The playable characters and AI that are something that could have been worked on a little more. Yes, this game is 5 years old, but there are games from back then that have better graphics on the players than this game does. Does this make this a bad game? No. In truth, it's probably a bit petty of me to pick up on this, but I said I would give you an honest opinion. Another thing that bugs me a little bit is the death animation when you have killed an enemy. It's all very much the same. They die, and they fall in a manner you would expect to see in James Bond GoldenEye. It's a little bit static, and it's just a bit meh. Again, does this impact the gaming experience? Not really, no. Now, my next irk is going to come across somewhat hypocritical, considering at the moment my main game is Hell Let Loose. But where is the story mode? Games like Insurgency Sandstorm would have been so much more enjoyable if there was some form of a campaign. And as I understand it, there was actually meant to be one, where two Iraqi women would cross a war-torn land. Yet, for whatever reason, these plans were pulled before release. It's a shame. I feel like with the game running on Unreal Engine 4, a campaign would have not only made the game a lot more compelling, but would have been beautiful to look at. I get the impression that if this game had landed in my lap 2 or 3 years ago when I was getting slapped around on shipment, trying to level up guns on Call of Duty, or being a toxic park the bus kind of player on FIFA, I might have enjoyed this game a whole lot more. But since really digging my teeth into the military simulation side of the FPS genre, games like this just leave me feeling like I want more. If run and gun is what you want, then don't hesitate buying this game. It will stand you in good stead while offering a different outlook on team-based FPS games than something like COD multiplayer or Warzone will give you. But that's not me. I don't want to feel like I'm going through the motions with games anymore. I want to be sucked into the action. I want to almost feel like I'm on the battlefield, risking life or death for my comrades. Unfortunately, this game doesn't give me that. What it does give me is an appreciation of how much my appetite for games has changed over the last 3 years or so. Despite the attention to detail and the chaotic fighting that you encounter on Insurgency Sandstorm, it's not a game that I'll be in a hurry to play again. If I get the rare urge for a run and gun game though, I would most certainly choose this over Call of Duty. I'm really struggling to give this game any more than a 6 out of 10. What do you guys think? Am I being far too demanding with what I expect from this game? Or do you agree that the game has somewhat missed the mark with its brimming potential? Let me know down in the comments below. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, share this video out to all your friends, and let me know what other games you'd like to see me review. Until next time, peace.